Welcome back. You're still watching Business Incorporated here on Channels Television. Next, we're looking at the Africa Innovation Impact Report and working with about 4,500 Africans from Nigeria, Ghana, and Kenya. The Africa Innovation Impact Report seeks to unravel the impacts of recent technology innovations and development on various aspects of their lives. So one of those involved in that, carrying out that report, is Olugbemini Idowu, founder and managing director of Talking Drums Communications. He joins us from the UK. Hi, Olugbemini. Good to have you on the show.
Oh, good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So give us some of the highlights of your findings in carrying out this report.
Yeah, thank you. So like you said, our aim with the report was to really capture the impact of the innovation stories. You've all probably seen, most of you have seen the stories about the multi-million-dollar fundraisers and the expansions and the acquisitions and all those stories. But what we really wanted to do was to capture the impact of these innovations and the stories around them on lives and livelihoods across the continent, which is why we worked with Survey 54, a company based out of Ghana, to survey those guys. And what we really found was that these innovations are not just changing how people live and how they work, but these innovations are changing how people think, how people view themselves as Africans, and also it's also driving the need for more innovation across the continent. So one thing we'll point to is one of the first questions we asked was, have these innovations impacted you in any way? And about 85% of respondents answered yes. About 91% said they would use technology that was made in Africa, and another 91% said they view themselves as innovators and entrepreneurs. And we all know that this hasn't always been the case, and I think that is very much welcome. It's very important to understand that where we find ourselves on the continent at the moment, innovation will play a huge role in any kind of future that we have. So the fact that we have this innovation is coming out, more Africans are open to innovation, more innovations, more investments coming to the market, it bodes very well for the future. And the other thing to mention about some of our findings, so we asked our respondents which sector they thought was most impacted by technology innovation. And surprisingly, education came in at #1. And the reason why I say surprisingly is because, again, anyone that's been following the space will know that the fintechs have been grabbing the headlines and they were getting all the money and all the funding. But about 20%-ish, like 21% of respondents said education had been most impacted. To be honest, I'm still trying to understand what the thinking behind that, but that's what the data said. And we're just going to report the data.
Yeah.
But even beyond that, the final thing I'll mention in terms of the data is that we asked them where they would like to see more innovation. And healthcare came in at #1, about 35% of the people we spoke to, which kind of makes sense given what we've lived through in the last few years. People want to see more to be done in terms of healthcare distribution across the continent. So 35% kind of makes sense on that front. And then after that was education again, which again makes sense because we know how Nigerian people across Africa, how we value education.
Yeah.
It's a big part of what we do. And after that came agriculture, which is again a big part. So it's good to see that it's not just audio innovation in a way. These innovations are impacting the way people work, making it easy for people to trade, but also impacting the way people think and creating like what I hope will be a new wave of innovation that will power the continent forward.
Yeah, well, interesting, as you noted there, the fact that education just keeps coming up. But I guess that's because a lot of people are taking part in virtual learning now, which wasn't very popular.
Exactly.
It wasn't very popular before all of this. But does it tell us if Africa has stopped playing the catch-up game? I mean, are we going to just keep playing that catch-up game, or can we be at the fore for once?
That's a very interesting question. And I think there are two things I'll say about it. On one hand, I think in some ways, I think we can actually make a very strong argument that Africa has leapfrogged the world on many issues. We look at how we use mobile, for example. We all heard of what's happening in Kenya with mobile money. That is miles ahead of anything that's happening anywhere else in the world. If you look at how people in Nigeria use Instagram and Facebook for commerce to buy and sell, again, that is miles ahead of anything that's happening anywhere else in the world. And it kind of feeds to the thing about this new innovation wave that's sweeping the continent. Africans are developing solutions for African problems. And only when Africans start developing solutions for African problems, I believe anyway, that's when we'll start seeing solutions for the challenges that we face. And I think the second thing to mention is there's a saying, I love this saying, the saying by Albert Einstein that says, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life thinking it's stupid. And the reason why I love that statement, especially in the African context, is that for so long, the way we measure African development and African progress has always been in the context of what's happening in other places. And I believe that hasn't really served us that well. I think whatever development that's going to happen has to be in the context, and that it has to be based on the reality of what's happening on the continent right now. An example will be, we have to be able to carry along the neighborhood retailer, Mommy Grace, that sells stuff down the road, or Auntie Tayo that has a tailor around the corner, or the smallholder farmer that has a small plot, or the chemist that sells medicines. We have to make sure that our innovation reaches out to those guys, because when we make life easier for those guys, when we impact those guys, then that impact kind of spreads across the board, and that's when we see real progress. Because and again, that will be, for me, that's African innovation, that's African development, not just copying and pasting stuff that's happened in another part of the world that may or may not work for us. Because I don't think at this time, I don't think we can afford to be taking those kind of gambles anymore. We need solutions that work and that can work right now.
True word, especially when we look at the fact that a lot of African countries have been termed emerging markets. But are we really ready? Because emerging markets is going to be, in the next couple of years, they're going to be leading when it comes to production and the power of consumption, purchasing power. But we have to be prepared for it if we want to hold such a position.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. I think, which is why I'm quite excited, I'm quite bullish, I'm quite optimistic about what the future holds for Africa. Because I believe as we address the issues that have hindered our growth, so in terms of ability to trade, enabling better financial services, as the report says, better healthcare, better education, better service in the agricultural sector, what we're doing is we're laying the foundation for future growth. And the other thing to actually mention is, if we observe some of the other countries across the world that we like to compare ourselves, that we like to look up to, the Americas, the UKs, a lot of these countries at some point not too long ago, they were in a similar place to where we are right now on the continent. And innovation played a huge part in their transition into where they are and to the success they're achieving today. So for me, I feel like that's why it's really important for us to tell the story. So this conversation that we're having now, and another conversation that happened in other parts of the media about this innovation narrative, is really important that we put it out there, because what we are seeing and what we think will continue to happen is we'll continue to catalyze the growth of these companies, because then more people will be aware of them. If I run a business, I want to partner with an African technology company that's running that business. Or for myself, if I'm interested in developing technology, I can see myself in a founder of another startup, and that can then snowball the development that we want to see, and I believe very strongly in a very short space of time we'll begin to see even more development and more progress on the continent.
All right, so Olugbemini, thank you so much for your time, and now we wish you the best. Of course, we do hope Africa will stay that far, and then at least we'll be proud to be Africans.
Yes. Thank you very much.